Everybody hearing me?
Daktari, go ahead. Daktari, go ahead.
Okay,
Can you
so
proceed? Yeah.
the short answer, my friend, I start with the last question. The short answer is the courts don't have the power to enforce their own orders because their orders are supposed to be enforced by the police, the same police that are using tear gas, that are assaulting, that are maiming, that are abducting, that are torturing and killing innocent Kenyans. If you recall, in not so long a time, I had 35 court orders saying I was a Kenyan, I should be allowed to be in my own country, my house should not have been destroyed, I should not have been removed. They never obeyed them for 5 years. So don't think that the animal has changed. This wild beast is still the same one. The same Koome that was heading the Nairobi police is now the IG of police of Kenya. Most of the abductors and assaulters and torturers are now both in uniform and in civilian clothing, which means that we go back to what we were saying from yesterday, and I've been saying consistently on my part for years now. The power is in our hands. Ultimately, we have resorted back to the default, which is clause 1 of the Constitution. The sovereignty is now vested in us, and it's up to us to enforce all the laws that should have been enforced by the police. But of course, we don't have weapons, and we are doing so peacefully. And that's all we have to continue doing. But to do that effectively requires that we show up in large numbers. That's the only way to do so effectively. Essentially, to occupy all the spaces. And if and when we do, because I don't think that it's been done as effective as we can, then there will be no tear gas. The police will be rendered impotent. There is no police that can throw tear gas to 10 million people in the CBD, for example. That would be suicide. So they won't do it. So the next question was with respect to, I don't know if it was the fact that they have weapons and we don't, or they can come with weapons and we don't. And I think my answer still remains the same, that if we are 10 million strong, that they won't be able to do that. I think that is where we are. That is what we have to emphasize, that everything relies on the turnout. And if we remain peaceful and people can see a regime shooting at peaceful protesters, the regime loses credibility and legitimacy. Regime falls on its own weight. Even the UN, and we do have people supporting us from all the way from the UN and many of these governments right now, they will denounce the government. It will be a pariah regime, and it will be subject to indictment, and their leaders will be subject to prosecution in many jurisdictions. There are other things that are happening that I will not disclose, but there are other things we are doing. There are other things we must do. So those who work for international organizations that are here and are listening, you know what to do. Those who are practicing law internationally, you know what to do. Many of them are aware of what happened to Pinochet in Spain. Pinochet was the biggest dictator and tyrant in the 1980s and early 90s. And a small magistrate in a small town in Spain, arrested Pinochet in Spain. And that was the end. So don't think that Ruto is above the law internationally. He is not, and he knows that. And we are going to deal with him perpendicularly both in Kenya and abroad. Be assured of that. We are not resting, we are not sleeping, and we will not let him go free. We brought down Moi, and he had to accept to bring multipartyism after 24 years. What is Ruto with less than 2 years? So there should be no fear. Some of us don't fear Ruto. I have to disclose, because this I did not disclose yesterday. I have spoken with Ruto myself 4 separate times about tracking, locating, and repatriating money that was stolen by Uhuru Kenyatta and stashed abroad. Because some of us have traced the money, we know where the money is, we know how much it is. And I have told them, this money is more than enough to wipe out the debt that you are complaining about and put Kenya on a trajectory of becoming a first world. And William Ruto has never reverted back to me. He told me once to put it in writing, and I did, and he never responded. So this is not a person we can give a pass. This is not a person we can excuse anymore. Instead of overtaxing Kenyans, we have told him what the solution is. We know where the money is. We know it is in its trillions. We know what the debt of Kenya is. We know this money is capable of wiping the debt and developing Kenya, and you don't have to tax anyone. Not to the level that he's trying to do. And he has refused to do it. Instead, he goes behind our back, cuts deals with people like Matiang'i so that he gets his cut, so that he can bank it in Dubai and other places. We know what they are doing. So I want us to be very, very clear. William Ruto is not capable of being reformed. Thank you.
Daktari, on that same note, I've had a problem about this thing called odious debt. We are being told we owe trillions of billions in terms of dollars. That is like external debt from IMF, from I don't know where. Is it possible we audit everything and then we know the real debt that has been used in development? Because I understand our constitution says that a debt, an external debt, should only be used for development projects, only and only then. There's a Eurobond that came in and it never go to Nairobi. We do not know the whereabouts of that money. I saw the interest mature the other day. I think they paid around 165 billion not long ago. So when we are able to do this, and now Ruto is out of he's out of the equation. Daktari, can we get this IMF and everyone, and even ask them if you know the Kenyan constitution, because ignorance is not a defense before a court of law.
But
If they knew,
my brother, to
yes,
cut
Daktari.
the long story short, let us not put the cart before the horse. Right now, we should focus on mobilizing so that, and making sure people are safe. And I have said safety is in our numbers. Before we deal with the details of auditing the debt, you will not be able to get the records and be able to record competently until they're out of power. So our agenda right now is to remove Ruto. Then we can do all those other things. Because they have not disclosed this information in a credible manner. For example, they are saying they paid debt this amount, this amount. Have you seen the evidence of payment of debt? No, we haven't. They have not published it. They have not shown us the transactions. Another thing is, there is money that they have been collecting from, let's say, unclaimed assets. People who just stole money and they are unclaimed. Or money that have been repatriated from people that stole, let's say, Chicken Gate. This guy's, the money was supposed to have been returned from London, England. We have not seen any evidence of that money, where it went, or even this money that EACC says it keeps recouping or recovering from thieves, or cutting deals and saying that they have gotten 100 or 200, 235 million or whatever, and they have recovered from this or that person. We have not seen any record of any of that. So there is a lot of issues, but we don't want to be lost in all those details. We have to be focused on the superstructure. The superstructure is the dissolution of government, and then the process of reconstituting a new dispensation, a new state, a new republic, so that we can start afresh. Kenya is not an independent state. Kenya is still a colonial state, and Ruto is a puppet of the West. Everything he does on behalf of Washington first and foremost, then London, then the other capitals. Kenya comes, if at all, in the footnotes. You saw it when he spoke yesterday. He couldn't even acknowledge 8 bullets on a minor. He couldn't acknowledge the boy who was killed in Rongai for no reason. He couldn't even acknowledge that. He couldn't acknowledge 24 bodies at the morgue that the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights confirmed they have seen. He got into an argument over that, then got personal with Linus Kaikai over an issue that we know is so personal, and it involves a woman in the 1980s, 1990s. Ruto is not a leader. Ruto is not a legitimate president and cannot govern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Can I go briefly, Dr.
Who's speaking? Benji. Benji, I'll give you the mic in a few. So I just wanted to say that there are 2 people who have
Dr.
messaged
Can I
me.
go briefly?
Benji, can you hear
Benji,
me?
please put your hand up. Put your hand up if you want to speak. There are a lot of people who are on the queue, and then you will be given the mic.
So as I was saying, there are 2 people who have messaged me now. One of them is requesting Kenyans in Kenya to use VPN while spacing. And another one, I just said, he's from the candle lighting event of one of the fallen heroes. So he will add him to the mic, and then he can also share about that. Hilary, you'd queued in Deborah, right?
She can
Deborah,
go ahead. Can go ahead.
Thank you, Hillary and Marge, for this. I just want to also add a sentiment on the infighting within the government. To me, I think it's a good cop, bad cop. So one cop is a good cop and the other one is a bad cop. So we should not be, we should not have any side shows with that. That's their own problem. Now, a question that I have for Dr. Miguna. We watched when Keter was being abducted. What can the citizen do? Because people were there videotaping. There were cars also there. Could also citizens stop this arrest? You jam, when they have the car, all the citizens jam and say you cannot do this. Or is that dangerous? That's number one, a question for Miguna. Another thing I also want to say, this year is election year in the United States. We need to bombard the State Department with emails, with Twitter, with pictures of the people who have been killed, with pictures of the demo, and also tagging Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Also Biden, they read these things. You know, they want to be in the good books because in November, there's election. So we have an opportune time. Let's put pressure everywhere that we can and tell them what you're doing is wrong. You need to denounce this. You need to denounce people who are being killed on the streets. So that's also how we can put pressure. So thank you very much, and also condolences to the people who've lost their lives.
Thanks, Deborah. And now we move to academia. And Dr. you can chime in anytime. Academia, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. My 2 minutes. I think the system is rotten to the core. And anything that they are doing, the only option we have is to remove the regime completely. And thereafter, we can have a new system that can deal with the questions that people are asking. And because, again, you need the state to protect you, and the same state is against you. So what do? You get it out of your way and then get a state that can protect or can work in the interest of the common man or the interest of the country. So I think that's the most important thing. Secondly, I urge people to turn in large numbers, as Dr. Miguna Miguna said. And this Dr. Miguna said long time ago. I used to watch him when I was there, I think first year or second year at the university, on NTV. He used to say that